Hello everyone, my name is Brenda Campbell. This is my YouTube channel at Angel Whispers Art, and I am so happy that you are here this morning to join me, or afternoon, or whatever time of day you're watching this. I thought I would do something just a little bit different today. Today we're going to draw a Zentangle inspired art piece. And that's because we're going to try to make it look like something. It's going to be representational as opposed to non-representational, which traditional classical Zentangle is non-representational. Just patterns, just drawing patterns. But today we're going to take those patterns and we're going to try to make ourselves a little scene out of it. I have tried a couple of them here. I'm going to show you now. There is one that I did on a Zentangle apprentice tile. The apprentice tiles have a smooth surface, almost like a Bristol paper, and they were designed for children because it's a little easier for children to draw on this surface. It's a little larger tile than our classical 3.5-inch square tile. It's still square. So this is one that I drew, but today in my video here, I'm going to draw one on a Zendala tile, which is a round tile. And you may have noticed that all of these tiles so far are black. And we are going to create this little seasonal scene, this little pumpkin or gourd of some sort with a little spider web behind it and some little circles all around it. You can think of them as anything you like. You might consider them to be little spider eggs if they're related to the spider's web. But use your imagination. This is what we're going for today. And what I would like to do in the process is to also give you a little bit of information about using Sakura's Gelly Roll pen line. I really like to use these on the Zendala tiles. I've used them on the white tiles, but I find they tend to be really striking on the dark tiles. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to use the Gelly Roll pens. And we're going to draw these two tangles, Fracas and Gorgeous. I've recently done the tangle drawing videos for both of these patterns or tangles, so I'll have links to those videos in my description below. And I guess that's about it for the introduction. I guess I'll tell you first what I am going to use today. In addition to the round Zendala, black Zendala tile, I'm going to use a metallic Gelly Roll pen. I'm going to use several different of the Stardust Gelly Roll pen line. You can tell that they're the Stardust because they have this little star on the barrel of the pen next to Gelly Roll. And I've got an orange one and a green one, and this one is a clear one, and the colors are notated also on the barrel just above the barcode, and there's a pound sign with a number 3 digits behind it. This one is pound sign 700. The 700 indicates the color, and in this case it is clear. So you'll see on black that it kind of gives a little bit of a champagne gold sparkle, but anyway, these three are my Stardust pens, so they're going to be kind of glittery pens. The metallic pen that I'm using in purple is going to be more of a solid metallical, more of a shine. So more of a shine or sheen. Stardust pens will give you more of a sparkle. I'm also going to be using a standard Gelly Roll white pen. This is just an 08 size. That's your average Gelly Roll pen size. And I may use an 06 because I can't find my regular 08, a black Gelly Roll pen. And I'm going to show you what we're going to use this for. We may or may not need it on this tile, but I'll show you how I would use it if I did need it. And you'll understand why or when you will need it. I'm also going to be using this Koi coloring brush pen. This is also a Sakura product. It is water-based, as all of these Gelly Roll pens that we're using today are water-based. So if you get them wet, they could kind of bleed, so you want to be careful of that. As you see on a round tile or paper, there are no corners to put dots in, so we're going to skip that. We are not going to draw a border, but if you wanted to, you could draw a border. The reason I'm not going to draw a border on this is because I'd have to do it in like a white chalk in order to see it, and I don't want to put white on my black paper or my black Zendala tile. So I'm going to be avoiding that altogether. And I'm going to do something a little different for the string, but we're going to do 3 tangles. I've already told you we're going to do fracas and gorgeous. The 3rd tangle is, it's basically tipple with an aura around it. And this is a pattern that was deconstructed. It's called Caviar. And I'll get the name of the CZT that deconstructed Caviar. But you can also think of it as tipple with an aura around it. So those are the 3 patterns or tangles. That's step 5. I'm going to show you how we're going to shade. That's where our Koi coloring brush pen is going to come in to play. We're going to use that to shade, and that's also where the black Gelly Roll pen will come in handy if we need it when we get to the shading section. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to begin. Because this is Zentangle inspired art, we can break the rules if we choose to, and that's totally fine. I'm still going to follow the Zentangle method of drawing, so we're going to begin by doing a little bit of a breathing exercise. I'm going to make it really kind of simple today, and we're basically going to do 3 deep breaths, breathing in, and as we breathe in, we're going to straighten our spine, and we're going to kind of become alert. And then as we breathe out, we're going to do that slowly and completely. Try to let all of the air out and make that a long exhale. As you exhale, also release any tension that you feel, starting at the tip of your head, and you can work your way down to your face and your shoulders and your hands, all the way down by the 3rd breath. So if you like, you can also, during this process, try to think of something you're grateful for and hold that thought in your heart, that gratitude. So we're just going to do 3 deep breaths for step 1, and we're going to begin breathing in and breathing out. And again. And out. And after your 3rd breath, take a moment, get settled in. When you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes if you've closed them. And we are going to go ahead and begin. So the first tangle that we're going to draw today is gorgeous. For a string, I said I was going to do something a little different, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my purple, which is number 524. It's a metallic pen, and I'm going to take that purple and I'm going to draw a dot somewhere in the upper left quadrant, if you will, of the circle. If you cut the pie into 4 pieces, it would be in the piece that's on the upper left, but then I'm going to put that away. That's just going to be a reference point for me. The next thing I'm going to do is pick up my orange Stardust pen, Gelly Roll Stardust pen, my glitter pen, and we're going to begin to draw the pattern Gorgeous. So keeping in mind, I want to make some space between Gorgeous and that dot. I'm going to start about here, and I'm going to make a big, tall stem. And then I'm going to come down here and make the shape of the left side of my pattern Gorgeous. So you can see I've kind of got a stem, and this is going to look like a gourd or a pumpkin. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line all the way down to a point on the edge here. And I'm going to fill that in with solid ink. Now this is glitter ink. I'm still going to go ahead and use small circular motions. Now one thing I can tell you about this glitter ink, or any gel ink for that matter, is that it flows really well if you hardly touch the paper. In other words, I have a really light hand here, and the ink is almost just flowing out of the tip of my pen as it might from a brush, a paintbrush. Now this gel ink, these pens have little ball points at the tip, and sometimes those get corrupted or damaged. If that happens, or even dried out, if that happens, then unfortunately I don't think you're going to be able to recover your pen. So you want to make sure that you keep them locked up tight. Every time you use them, you want to put that cap back on, and you want to make sure that you hear it click, and then you know it's airtight. So that's our first section of Gorgeous. Now I'm going to come here to this point, and I'm going to start with my second aura line. I'm going to turn my tile if I need to. Okay, and now I'm going to do another line. Now this one I did not bring to a point. I have a little bit of width at the bottom there, and that's okay. Now I'm going to fill this in, and I'm going to tell you that another thing you need to be aware of when you're using the Gelly Roll pens is that the ink takes a little longer to dry. And so you want to make sure that you're not going to rub your hand over something you just drew, because you'll smear it. And that's not fun. So you can see I'm drawing to the right of the last thing I drew, and that allows me to have my hand here on this dry paper, so there's no risk of me brushing over the other side. Small circular motions. Fill that in. Okay, so now we've got two auras that we've thickened. Basically, we've drawn a section to fill in and widen that line. So I'm going to do a third one. Fill that one in. Now, all of you who are drawing with me, if you were to post your drawings when you were done, we would be able to look at them and together and see how different each one of them is. Every one of us is so unique, and there's no way, even though we all have the same instructions here, everyone's piece is going to be unique to themselves. They're all going to be different. Similar, maybe, but very different. And for me, that's kind of one of the magic things about Zentangle, is how it really brings out your uniqueness as you're drawing this art. Okay, now I'm going to make a fourth one, but I don't really want to make my, well, maybe I'll make my stem one more width or a wide, and that, yeah, then the next one I'll do something different. Okay. So if you have a Gelly Roll pen and you're having trouble getting it to start writing, you're having trouble getting that ink to start flowing out of the pen, what you can do, and this is information I took directly from Sakura's website, but what you can do is either tap it or you can scribble in circles until the ink starts flowing again. So there is my fourth one. And before I go on, I do want to show you what I'm talking about when I tell you you can tap it. So I have a piece of scratch paper here, and I'm going to take any old pen. I think this is clear. And when I say tap it, I mean just tap it. So if I tap it, I can see the ink is flowing. And if I do little circles, I can see that the ink is flowing. So this pen is good. But if I had one that was not flowing, like, I'll show you. I think I have one I can use. This is a black one, though. And I try tapping, nothing is happening. A little bit, maybe. So I'm gonna do my circular motion, and you can see a little bit's coming out, but not enough. So I tap it again, circles, tap it, circles. And hard as I try, nothing's happening here. So unfortunately, I'm going to say this pen is going to have to go in the trash. And that's probably because it's been around for a while. I've had that pen for quite some time. And I think that maybe the ink just dried out. So that's okay. It happens. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make my fifth aura line, but I don't really want to make this any bigger. So I'm going to start down here and add that way. Now see, my pen here is stopped. Kind of spitting a little bit, so I'm going to get my scratch paper. Get it rolling again. Yep, now it's rolling again. So let's come back up here. There we go. Anytime you stop using your pen, you want to remember to put that cap back on so it does not dry out. Drying out is the death of a Gelly Roll pen. Now, like always, I encourage you to use what you have. So if you have other gel pens that are not Gelly Roll by Sakura, that's fine. Use what you have. I can only speak to the properties of the Gelly Roll, though. So your gel pen may not quite work the same, and that's okay. The other tip I have for you when it comes to using these Gelly Roll pens is to make yourself a color chart when you get your pens, because it becomes very helpful, or at least for me it has always been very helpful. And I'll show you mine here in a second as soon as I get this section filled in. Now I know sometimes if you have a Gelly Roll pen that doesn't work. I've heard, and I've done this myself, where I've tried to heat it up a little bit by rubbing it in my hands. I've tried maybe trying to get the ink wet, and none of that has worked. And Sakura even says on their website it's not going to work, so I suppose I should stop trying it. Okay, I think this is going to be my last one. Oh, I didn't show you my color charts. That's okay. This is my last line section to fill in, if you will, for my gorgeous pattern. So as soon as I'm done with that, I'll show you. Okay, I'm going to put my cap on, snap it tight. I know it's nice and tight, so that's good. So here is one of my color charts. It's kind of hard to see. This is all the glitter pens, and they don't always show up in a fine line very well. And these are the metallic pens. These are silver and gold special pens. Not special, they're just silver and gold. I made this color chart before I started the video today because I was testing the different Gelly Roll pens that I had. I have my orange Stardust, which I just used on the gorgeous pattern, but I want to use some green, so I tried a Moonlight pen and a metallic green, and this is a Stardust green. And then I wanted a purple, so I tried just a regular Gelly Roll purple and a metallic. And then I have my silver Stardust and my clear Stardust and my white plain Gelly Roll. Those are all, they were all contenders, if you will, for this project. And then I narrowed it down to the ones that I liked. So if you have different favorites, then you can certainly use whatever colors you like. If you have different gel pens besides the Sakura line, you can do your little color chart and decide which ones you like. I know that there are lots of different products out there and everyone has their favorites. So I think we're good for now. I'm going to go ahead and next I'm going to draw with my green metallic pen. This is 526 is the color on it, but it's just their metallic pens. And I am going to draw some circles at the bottom to kind of ground my gourd here. Try to vary them a little bit, but I'm not seeming to get too much variation. I just kind of want to ground it here. Do a few more on this side. Now, if you have a line that skips, you want to add a little bit more ink to it. You want to be careful because once it dries, that's no problem to add. But if it's still wet, then you may end up making it like scratchy instead of actually adding more ink. So that's just a matter of getting to know your pens, getting familiar with them, using them, seeing what properties they have. And I don't know if you're noticing, but it looks like as they dry, as the ink dries, the color kind of stands out a little bit more. But sometimes I've noticed these metallic pens, the color can change. So I don't know if this is going to change as it dries or if it's just a different bit of that metallic ink didn't get blended up at all. Another thing that can kind of kill your Gelly Roll pen is air bubbles. So you don't want to shake them or tap them too hard, because you can actually create air bubbles, air pockets when you do that. And once you have an air pocket in there, you really can't use the pen. It just kind of kills it at that point. So you just want to be careful about that. I'm now taking my glitter pen, my green glitter pen. This is number 729. It's not my favorite green for this project, but I don't have a lot of options. I need to get myself another set of Gelly Roll pens. So I am now filling in side. And this is that caviar pattern, or tipple with an aura. And I'm filling in a circle, but I'm leaving like a ring of black between the outline green and this inner filled in section. Now another little tip about these Gelly Roll pens is that unlike the micron pens, which always need to be stored flat, you can store your Gelly Roll pens flat or in a cup standing up. It really doesn't matter. Sakura just warns that if you're going to use them in a cup standing up, you just make sure you don't drop them in there, because again, that is going to lend towards creating some air bubbles, and that we don't want. So finally, our last pattern, I'm going to start this pattern. I know I put a purple. Maybe I'll go ahead and just use the purple. I'm going to go ahead and draw fracas, and fracas is going to come behind my gorgeous tangle. So it's going to kind of be one coming from the side, and it's going to be behind. So let's go ahead and start drawing that. I'm going to use this as my starting point for my center. Okay, and now let's see, I need to look at it this way. Okay. Now I'm going to have one that comes this way. And another one that goes this way. All the way to the end. You don't have to take it to the end if you don't want. You can make a shorter line there if you prefer. So the next thing with fracas, now we've got our 4 lines, or 8 pieces of a pie, if you will. The next thing we're going to do is draw some auras. Now, this might be wet still, so I'm going to turn it and start this way, so that I don't have to worry too much about getting my hand to wash over, rub over that line or that solid ink while it's still wet. Remember, it takes a minute for these things to dry. Now I'm drawing these auras, I'm drawing on one side to start. I find I get a much more consistent line if I do that when I'm drawing something that comes to a point, when I'm aura-ing a line that comes to a point. So I am almost done with all these sections. Okay, now I'm going to turn it and draw the other direction. Okay. And now I'm going to do this a little different than I usually do. Typically, I would start in the centers and work my way out with rings. But this time, I am going to start on the outside of these bigger ones and draw a single line that kind of ends my little fracas pattern, or my spider web, if you want to look at it like that. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and draw some more lines to make my bands. I'm going to roll this around. I'm going to do it this way. So I'm drawing underneath, but I'm being very careful not to touch the ink because I'm not sure what's wet at this point. Okay, let's do another one. And these do not have to line up, so don't worry about that. Okay, so I have my little spider web. Now on my other drawings, I have filled these in solid, but I kind of had an idea as I was drawing these, and I'm wondering how this will look. So instead of making it solid, I thought I would draw some lines. Because these are triangles, I want to make sure that my lines are kind of radiating out. So I think the best way for that is to start in the middle. Now, in the spirit of there are no mistakes, on that last triangle here, I did two that were not actually bands, but that's okay. I'll make it look like that was intended. And then we can even make these little fine ones here at the end a little fancier. Now, if you want, you can make yours solid and leave a sparkle, just like we did in the drawing fracas video when we were just using black and white. But I kind of like the idea of making it more, I guess, lacy-like for a spider web. And all of these lines kind of add to that. So I think the ones where I have extra lines, I'm going to add solid circles on the lines. And this is a tangle called bead line, I believe. And I will put the name and the CZT who deconstructed it in the description, along with the CZT who did caviar. Let's do one more down here and put bead lines in that. Okay, I kind of like that. It's not as solid as the other ones. You don't really get that shine, but we could add some shine in there if we want to. So for now, I think we're done with our tangle drawing, our pattern drawing. And I'm gonna move on to grabbing my coloring brush pen. I'm not sure because we don't have any solid lines here. I'm not sure what it's going to do, but what I'm going to try and do is make some shading. Now remember this, and I'm only drawing it where the bands are. I'm not drawing it over what I want to be solid black, because that's only going to make it lighter. But this does seem to be helping a little bit to give the illusion of a shadow. See, this will be a shadow behind the pumpkin. And if I'm adding this shadow right here at the edge where the X, our initial lines are, it should aid in the illusion that these are kind of bowed, they're rounded, they have some dimension. And you know, it doesn't have to have a lot of dimension. I suppose a spider web would not necessarily have a lot of dimension. And then underneath All of this would be darker. Oops, see there. It's activating that jelly ink. So I think I might be done. Now what I can also do is put a little bit around the outside, right over top of my glitter ink. But the black is kind of shining through, so I'm not sure it's really giving me that much shadow or dimension. But I will put some here at the bottom where it meets these little caviar spider eggs, whatever you want to think of them as, making that just a little bit darker. Okay, the reason I don't use graphite to shade on a black tile is because it tends to not be darker but lighter. So it turns everything lighter, which kind of is counterintuitive. So it doesn't look like a shadow and it just looks a little odd. Now, that's why I grabbed this black Gelly Roll pen. You can use other Sakura pens, like this Graphic one. It has a big fat nib. And I could use this if I wanted to make a really solid black line right next to whatever is shaded. But as I drew this, I did kind of leave a little bit of a space. Now the concern, or the problem, if you will, with the Graphic one is that it doesn't really do a great job of coloring the Gelly Roll ink. It does a pretty good job of covering up the lighter gray, and I'm only putting this right next to the edge. I'm not, pulling it in like I did the gray pen. And it's kind of working because I don't have big bands. If I had a big band, it would probably not cover up the Gelly Roll. And all this is doing is not really covering it up as much as it is darkening what I lightened up with the gray pen. And the gray pen just kind of reactivated the water-based Gelly Roll ink, especially here in the center. So I'm coming back in to darken that up, and pretty much just covering up all of that ink that was in the center, which is not a problem. Remember, no mistakes. So if you find that whatever black pen you're trying to use to highlight the lines between your tangles is not working, and my Sakura one is not the best one to cover ink, the jelly ink. That's why I got the Gelly Roll Black, because it will actually draw over top of the other ink, whatever gel ink you had. And it gives you a nice clean separation between this line and the bands. I think this might have been easier to see if I had used solid bands with that metallic ink, but honestly I do like this better. And I think my Sakura Black did a pretty good job. I'm guessing this isn't drawing anymore. Oh, it is. Sometimes it gets like mucked up on, I kind of have to roll it off. Another thing you can do is get a tissue and just kind of roll it on the tissue to pick up any ink that's kind of globbed up. get it rolling again. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to do a whole lot more of that. And here in the center, between my orange lines in the center there, because there was so much water from the different pens, it's kind of tearing up that paper a little bit. So I'm going to come back over it with my orange glitter pen again, redraw my line there. Okay, now the next thing I want to show you is kind of cool. We're going to create a few highlights, and that's what I'm going to use my white Gelly Roll pen for, is these highlights. Let me make sure this is working. Looks like it's working pretty good. So if there were light shining, we'll say moonlight since this is black paper, if there was light shining on this pumpkin, this gourd, we would probably see reflections of it here on the top. So what I'm going to do is kind of put white ink on each of these top sections that I have the glitter ink on. So wherever I think that reflection would show up best, that's what I'm covering in the white. So I have little bends in these orange sections of my gorgeous pattern. And I'm going to assume like everything above the bend is something that will catch that moonlight and show a little reflection. Now this isn't terribly solid, it's kind of scratchy, and that's okay. And remember that you want to make sure that what you're drawing on top of here is dry. So I had to make sure that my orange was dry, which I'm pretty sure it is. It's the first thing we drew. And I'm using a very light touch with my ink. As I go over the glitter pen, I want to barely be touching it and just let the ink flow out. Okay, now I'm going to have to let that sit. And I'm not sure, but maybe just because I want to try something different with this, in the center, I'm going to draw some white lines. They're just additional lines between my purple metallic lines. And I'll draw, you know, as many as I think makes sense for each band. Each band is a different size. And I'm really just trying to cover a center. I'm not filling it in. I'm kind of making it a little bit scratchy. And that's okay. If that bothers you, then you can certainly be a little more attentive to detail. Okay, so now I have just added white lines, and that kind of gives it a highlighted effect. And so I don't know if do we want to put dots. I think maybe just for fun, I'll go ahead and put a white dot in the center of each one of my little aura-tippled or caviar or spider eggs. So just a little sparkle, little highlight, little dot of white on top of that. And now I need to let this sit for a minute and let all of that white gel ink dry. It's going to take a minute or two, so I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to wait forever, but I do want to wait just a minute. So I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I think it is now dry enough. And I have picked up my orange Sakura Stardust pen, which is my glitter pen. And now I'm going to go over the white on my gorgeous pattern, or my pumpkin. Again, very light touch, but I'm just putting this gel ink, this glitter ink, right over top of the white. I'm bringing my tissue over here because I might need to degunk my tip of my pen occasionally. Now, and I'm kind of going past where the white is a little bit to kind of blend it a little better. And remember, very light touch. Small circular motion, light touch. Letting that ink just flow out of the tip of this pen. Okay, next one. If you're drawing along, I am probably just going to speed this up a little bit. So you can just pause the video and draw at your own pace. Okay, so I have added my glitter orange Stardust ink over top of the white. And look at that. You can see it's much brighter. So I think we're good. This is a very simple project. It does not take very long to draw. Which pen do I want to use? I guess I'll use this green to do my chop. For some reason this metallic pen wanted to do a bunch of skipping. There we go. Okay, it's not perfect, but you know what? Nothing is ever perfect. But there is our seasonal, spooky pumpkin in the garden at night tile. I hope you enjoyed it. So this was a little ZIA project, a little out of the ordinary, something I did for the season. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to watch more. Hit the notification button if you want to be notified every time I drop a a video for you to watch. So thank you so much for joining me and hanging out if you're still here. Remember, I love to see your art, so go ahead and post it wherever you post and tag Angel Whispers Art or hashtag Angel Choir Mosaic, which is another hashtag I use to identify my virtual mosaic online. So if you want to check who else is drawing along and see their work, be inspired by your fellow artists, that would be wonderful. So I hope to see your work. Thanks again for joining me, and until next time, be you and be happy.